hello. Welcome. I am just working on getting live. A couple of these are having some challenges. So bear with me as I work this out. Get this a little more organized, I think. It's just having trouble. Okay, well, I'll have to post it after the fact. Hold on 1 second. Hopefully you can hear me. Let's see. All right. All right. Hopefully you can hear me. Let me know in the comments. Looks like we are live on YouTube, but unfortunately the other ones are not showing up. So, right. There we go. Okay, cool. All right. So, welcome in to our webinar on vision to results. This has kind of been a crazy. Yay! Okay, perfect. I'm so glad we're really. So, this has kind of been a crazy time. I have a beautiful house that I was renting, and fortunately, the water pump went out, and the landlord didn't want to replace it, and we had to kind of move out impromptu. So I'm at a coffee shop right now because we're in mid move. We've moved all of our stuff. My husband's returning the car, so I'm really excited about our new place and hope that everything goes well. So I'm glad that you all are here. Super excited for this workshop. It's about 75 to 90 minutes, but I scheduled it for 2 hours simply to give you guys some time, focus time after the workshop is over so that you can kind of finish working on. This is obviously going to be a working document. This isn't something that's like a one and done sort of situation. This is something that you're going to come back to again and again and again. If you don't have your workbook, it's okay. You can go ahead and register for this workshop. I'll leave the workshop up probably for about a week, and then I'll close it down so it'll be on YouTube so you guys can take a look. Once you register for the workshop, again, you'll get the workbook, Vision to Results. If you've gotten your workbook so far, you might have started their pre-work. So let's go ahead and jump into the pre-work. And then also let me go run and grab my notes for this class. Again, thank you guys for being patient with me. It's kind of like I said, that kind of an impromptu move in the middle of everything is interesting to say the least. So, but that's what we're doing, right? And sometimes too, when you create a vision, which I have and I do all the time. Sometimes the universe, God, creator, however you want to call it, can move you quickly, literally, figuratively, from where you're going. So definitely a lot of unpredictability in life for sure. All right, let me see if I can pull my notes for this webinar. Of course, it doesn't want to find my notes, which is fun. All right, here we go. Yes, exactly. And so, really, when we're creating results in our life, whatever those results may be, all right, there we go. I think I'm back on the internet. So let me know. It kind of went down for a second. So I'm back up. So yes, exactly. So having your vision, right? So we create a vision, whatever that may be. Also, time freedom was really important to me. Not being stressed, really prioritizing my nervous system and my self care and my self healing, right? So that was really my vision. And then naturally, as a result, right, my home situation changed. Now, I didn't go into it thinking, oh, my home situation is going to change. I go into it thinking, okay, I have this vision of what I want to create with my life, especially in this new year. And I'm unwavering in that faith and in that belief. And then whatever happens, right, happens as it is, right? And so we moved from White Rock to Morn Fortune, which is really funny because Morn Fortune in French is mountain of prosperity, right? So I'm working on my business, I'm working on my financial goals, etc. We have this water leak in feng shui. When you're leaking water, you're leaking money, just FYI. So we kind of have this perpetual water leak that we couldn't get a hold of. And so, of course, it's symbolic. We also have little house mice, which wasn't really fun either. So little house mice, and that often symbolizes spiritually is all the little things that you're maybe not taking care of or not paying attention to. So as I kind of shored up those things again, movement begins to happen. So, really difficult to find unfurnished apartments here, right, in St. Lucia. So, the fact that I was able to have clarity, vision, move really quickly within 2 weeks, get out of that situation and move. And again, even just going up to the property, like I could feel it intuitively. The view that was really important to my husband, checked all those boxes, etc. So part of trusting the process is trusting yourself, right? When the things show up, are you going to trust yourself to follow through and move through whatever you need to move through in order to gain the result that you're looking for? So there's that. So on the court, as always, doing the work. All right, so let's go ahead. So again, if you are in this webinar, you've registered for it, you should have received a copy of your workbook. There is some pre-work instructions in your workbook. You could have already done it. If you haven't done it, totally fine. Not a deal breaker by any stretch of the imagination. But what the pre-work does is it starts to look at your current identity. So in order to shift from one experience to another, you obviously need to be conscious of who and what you are in that moment. So this is what the pre-work is. It's really having that inventory and that assessment of who and what you are right here, right now in the moment. God, my lips are looking crazy. So, so in the moment, right here, right now. So this inventory is really helpful for you to be able to determine, what your goals are, what your results are, what you're trying to achieve, what you're trying to attain. So don't skip over this part because it's really important, especially for clarity moving forward. So if you haven't done this section, feel free to go back and do it at your leisure as we move through, right? This assignment. Definitely don't skip it because it really is important for you to understand your clarity, exactly who and what you are right now in this moment. And again, this is a working document. So don't think, oh, now I have to know all the answers. I have to figure it all out. I have to have everything written out, documented, etc. No, it's not like that. This is more of data dump right off your head. Who am I currently being? Who am I decided that I am? Who am I living into? What decisions I'm making? What choices? What relationships, etc. So really, we're looking at the framework of your health, right? And so when we look at our life, we're looking at all different facets of our lives. So whether that's health, whether that's finance, whether that's relationships, whether that's our marriage or romantic partnerships, our parenting, whatever that may be. So there's multiple areas of our life. And then we want to audit those areas in terms of how is my experience in this particular area. You can do it on a 1 to 10 scale. You can do it, best, good, fair, whatever scale that you want to do, or you can just do a free form journaling. That's totally fine. But it's really important for you to take a few minutes, just sitting with yourself and understanding who you're showing up as and who you choose to be in this moment. So make sure that you get that accomplished. The other parts of the pre work are kind of interesting, talking about your personality and really starting to build more self awareness. So I've done tons of these different things over the years, like from the DISC assessments to you name it. I've just done all the different personality assessments. And so this is just a really simple one that you can do to really kind of understand where you are currently and then where you want to go potentially as you're creating your new identity, your new vision, your new experience, right? And then you put them on here. So that was really most of the pre work. The last part of the pre work is this life assessment. And so this is where we literally go through those different areas of your life, your family, your friends, your relationships, your health, your wellness, all that stuff. And then you rate it from that zero to 10. This helps you narrow down what areas of your life are doing great, what areas of your life perhaps need some work, and what areas of your life are just dismal and absolutely just need to be reorganized and redone. And so this is a really good exercise for you to assess. I like to do this um, at most twice a year. Sometimes, excuse me, I'll just do it once a year, but by large, I'll do it, twice a year. That kind of mid-mark, how are things going, as well as the year end or beginning, whichever I'm doing it in, just so I can assess, okay, what do I need to work on? Usually, I'm working on my business. I'm working on my health, my balance of my health, and my treating patients, and so that's typically what I'm working on. But it's always good to be able to check in on how's my spirituality going, how's my recreation going, how's my it's a really good way for me to check in with these other areas of my life that I wouldn't normally pay attention to just because I'm so focused on what I try to gain result from. So keep that in mind. This is definitely, again, a working document you can come back to. And for the sake of this class, we're going to focus on your health because you can't build anything without your health. So we're going to focus on that particular area. But just know you can apply pretty much anything that we're working on to any area of our lives, whatever that may be. All right. So first part of ours, moving into our vision and our results, right? And so again, a lot of times in the metaphysical world, in the metaphysical community, we talk about vision, we talk about dreams, we talk about desires, we talk about all of the things that we want, right? But then we see in the physical world how everything is just not working the way that we want it to work, right? So that's really frustrating when we have this great vision, while in the same time we're sloughing through the realities of life, and these two things don't match up. So it can be really challenging to have faith, to have hope, to have resilience, to feel empowered. I've often said, like, my phoenix, in the ash or whatever, is literally an endangered species, simply because of how many times she's had to reinvent herself, re-evolve herself, regain herself. So just know that this is not a one and done situation. This is going to be something that you're going to come back to again and again and again. I like to frame this on an annual basis. So I like to evaluate who I am, who I'm being, who I'm showing up in the world. Does this align with me on an annual basis? I usually spend about 3 months in this process, starting in October, and self-evaluate for the final year, and really kind of process through all that pre-work that we were talking about, who I am, who I be, who I show up as, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then from there, I make decisions about how I want to transform, how I want to be, how I want to do life over this next year. So this grounding and this intention is just to get you present in this moment before we start running in and doing all the things. So let's go ahead and just take a few deep moments and go ahead and place your hand on your heart, and big breath for me. And exhale, and big inhale, and exhale. And one last time, big inhale. and exhale. So as you're in this moment, right, I want you to get clear about how your body feels, right? Where you're feeling tension, where you're feeling stuck, where you're feeling maybe anxious, fear, lack, judgment. Just assess where you're feeling that in your body and go ahead and take that a note and write that down for me. So if you're feeling the stiffness around your chest, usually that's grief, sadness, sorrow. In your throat, miscommunication, something that needs to be said, spoken, etc. In your belly, that's going to be more of fear, self-worth, self-love, self-esteem, challenges with that. Your hips and your back support, and not necessarily getting the support that you need. So just kind of check in with where you're feeling and what you're feeling. This can give us a lot of clarity into where perhaps you need to look, where you're stuck, where we need to move through as we're building our vision into a result. So again, our vision a lot of times is very etherical in the mind, all these thinking, these thoughts, these visions, these dreams, these desires. But unless our nervous system is literally dialed in and wired in, we're not going to have the inspired action to do the daily things that need to be done in order to bring this thing into light. And who knows how many steps it'll take. Sometimes it'll take one step, sometimes it'll take 100 steps. We don't really know. Obviously, the bigger the result, the bigger the effort, and not necessarily the working effort, but the mental, emotional, spiritual effort to bring not only your mind, but also your emotions and your nervous system in alignment. So whatever your dream result you may want, you want to also ensure that your nervous system it feels safe within it. Because if your nervous system doesn't feel safe with whatever it is you're trying to create in your world, you will sabotage it ultimately, just because the nervous system again doesn't have the capacity to be able to accept whatever it is you're trying to bring in. So this is also why we kind of take a slow approach in the beginning as we're building that vision and really connecting in with our bodies, how our bodies are feeling, and how it's reflecting back in the world around us. All right. So again, we've got all these areas of our life, our families, our friends, yada, yada, all the world of it, right? Now we're going to focus on that one area of our life that we literally cannot do without, which is the area of our health, right? So try to have wealth without health, try to have relationships without health, try to have a business without health, try to have a career without health. Any of the things that we mentioned when we did our inventory, all of those things require your physical health and well-being. So for this exercise, we're going to be utilizing your health, but just know you can do it on any area of your life that you want to work on. And again, we're putting this on the court, meaning that we are, coming out of the bleachers where we're just observing life and we're seeing what's available to actually being, really a active participant in your life. You're not reactive, but instead you're being proactive because you're intentionally and consciously creating. So many people unconsciously create. So what does that mean? Unconsciously create, meaning that they just pick up whatever comes along. They're not necessarily creating that vision, or maybe they have a vision here, a vision there, a thought here, a thought there, but they're not putting it in an organized way to be able to generate the result that they're looking for. So that's why we're doing this exercise, to really create that. All right, so let's look at your health, not your symptoms. Okay, so we're not looking at, oh, I'm taking this medication, I've got this back pain, I've got this. We'll get there, right? But when we're looking at your health, right, how connected are you to your health, right? And when we're talking about health, your water, your food, your movement, your sleep, how connected are you? So if I said to you, how many ounces of water are you drinking? Or how many grams of protein are you eating? Are you able to articulate that to me? Or is that overwhelming? Is that frustrating? Does that shut you down? Does that take you out? What does that do? And so look at that in terms of your connection, not only to your health, but also to your life. And I apologize, I do not have my glasses on, so I need to zoom this in. All right, cool. All right, so when we look at that connection with our health, what are we doing to manage our health, upkeep our health? Are we focusing on our water? Are we focusing on our sleep? Are we taking supplements? Are we taking movement? What is the organized structure around our health, right? And, excuse me, how does this relate to my body? Right? So when I don't drink water, right, what happens? I normally get tired and worn down, and my joints are aching, when I don't drink enough water, or if I don't eat enough protein, my body doesn't connect well. Now, meaning my body doesn't repair or heal, or my blood sugar is unstable. Now, you don't have to know all of this information right now, especially if you're disconnected with your health. It's really difficult to kind of hone in on that. But just for the sake of curiosity, right, and the sake of being, informed and being present and being conscious and all the things, right, and living a holistic lifestyle, ultimately, just go ahead and connect. How do you relate to your body? Do you shame your body? Do you guilt your body? Do you judge your body? Do you love your body? Do you support your body? Do you tell your body, oh gosh, you're doing this, you're not doing this? What is the conversation around your body, and how do you relate to it? Because naturally, if your conversation is not one that is loving, kind, sweet, supportive, etc., it's going to negatively reflect how your body feels, and then your inspired action pretty much goes out the toilet. Just if you followed my work at all, that I'm a big proponent of your thoughts first. Your thoughts create your emotions then create your actions create your habits, then your habits create your behaviors, and ultimately your lifestyle, right? And so we are zoning in on our thoughts and what we're thinking, and then eventually we'll get into what we're feeling, because ultimately that's going to drive our actions in terms of what we need to do with our lives. Okay, so how do you relate to your body? Do you trust your body? Okay, so when your body gives you signals and it's telling you this and that, and imagine the symptom is a signal. So when your body says, hey, I've got a palpitation, or I have an itch, or I have a rash, or I have a symptom, a gassing, a bloating, or whatever, how connected am I to that message? And also to, do I trust what I hear? Right? Or am I one of those people where I don't trust what I hear internally, and so I'm going to this person for confirmation, or that person for confirmation, or I'm looking online, or I'm researching it, or I'm just not sure? How many of you really trust your body? Like, trust its messages, trust its signal, trust what it's telling you, and then naturally look at why or why not. Right? So sometimes people feel betrayed by their bodies. They feel like their bodies have kind of done something that they didn't want it to do, right? Not having that connection between their health and all of the subtle actions that need to be done in order to maintain your health. Remember, health is built consistently, deliberately over an extended period of time. And so when we break down our awareness to what drives our health, we go unconscious and then default into survival mode, and we're constantly in that rat race. Again, that keeps us farther and farther away from our health goals and our health needs, and more entrenched in Western medical ideology, which is very passive and, oh, this just happened out of nowhere, and I'm not responsible for any of it, and I don't need to do anything, and I'm going to go to the doctor and just hand all my power away. So we don't want to do that. Instead, we want to learn how to trust our bodies, trust our health, and trust intuitively the signals that we're getting, even if we don't understand them, right? And so that's where documentation comes in. That's where journaling comes in. That's where, if you have our app, our companion app, that's where documenting and our body tracking, that's where all of that comes in handy, because you start to make those connections about what it is you're doing with your body, and how your mind and your emotions are processing it to be able to have long-term health. All right. So now that you look at the trust around your body, and again, if you've got more to write, feel free to write. If you're watching the replay, you need to pause, feel free to pause. I'm just going through it take your time through this. Don't rush, but definitely, obviously in a workshop environment, we're going to be moving through the process, but don't feel at any point that, oh, I have to hurry up and finish. And if you're in a role and something that I said sparked it, stay with that. Like, there's no rules to this. This is really your practice, your time, your enlightenment, and your time just to get yourself together and start to plan. All right, so the last question about your health identity. And remember, we're trying to devise who it is you choose to be, who it is you chose to show up in the world, is what patterns repeat in my health behaviors. Meaning, like, every morning when the alarm goes off and I know I need to go to the gym, do I say to myself, oh, it's so cold to get out of bed, I can't get out of bed, right? Is that a habit? Is it a habit that when I get stressed, I avoid drinking water, right? Is it a habit where, I'm just running and running and running after the kids and my husband and all the things, whatever, and I forget to eat, or I send my blood sugar through all kinds of ups and downs, or I don't take my supplements, or I don't drink water, I don't move my body. What are those patterns that keep showing up consistently? And maybe it's a failed weight loss attempt, or maybe it's a diagnosis that you can't seem to get a handle on, or maybe it's even something where you've been searching for answers with your health, haven't found it, and so now you're going more internal to really decide what's going on. So all of those definitely can be a part of the process. Again, just what patterns are showing up, what things that you're used to seeing in your life. Okay, all right, and give me one moment. All right, perfect. All right, so moving right along. Okay, so now let's look at the relationship that your lifestyle and your environment has to your health. Remember, your health is not in a silo, okay? So your health is either going to be supported by your environment and lifestyle, or it's going to be under supported by your lifestyle and your environment. So let's go ahead and get into the curiosity of it, in the looking glass of it. We're not going to try to figure out, change it, fix it. We're just going to be curiously engaged and aware. So first thing is what in your environment is supportive of your health, right? Is your partner a health nut too? Is, let's say you live in an environment that has community gardens, or you have access to community supported agriculture, or you have a gym in your house, or whatever. What a part of your environment really is supporting your health. Right? So think about that. And I'm going to take a sip of my Americano while we do that. Yummy. Mm. All right. So now, what aspects of your environment and your lifestyle drains you, right? Is this overcommitment? Is this work? Is this the kids? Is this, the in-laws? Whatever that may be, right? What is draining you? What is leaking energy? What is impacting your nervous system? Right. So things like, oh, I'm so exhausted after this. Like I've been, maybe I go and I meet with a girlfriend, and no matter how many times I meet with this girlfriend, every time I leave from them, I feel tired. I feel exhausted. Maybe it's because of the conversation. Maybe it's because, she's just jumping on me energetically. I don't know. Right. But those sorts of things are indicative of your nervous system being drained. And so you really want to be aware and present too. All of those people, places, situations, circumstances, and events which drain your energy, because that is not going to help support you and your health, right? So, a little worried about this. I know a lot of people feel almost like they have to stay connected with certain people for whatever reason, whether they've, had them in their lives for a long time, or they, are related to them, or they're in the same social circles, or whatever the case may be. And so this is your permission to acknowledge when people are draining you. And again, we're not changing it, we're not fixing it, we're just being aware of, okay, these things are draining me. I maybe don't want to spend so much of my time focused on this. So go ahead and spend a couple minutes with what is draining you. And let me know in the comments if you have any questions. Again, we're having some issues with LinkedIn and Facebook. I'll post them afterwards once I get them connected. So I'll post the replay right after. So even if you don't catch it now, you can see the replay afterwards. All right. So now let's look at what areas need structure, right? So what areas still need structure? So we're working on number 3, where do I need more structure and simplicity? And then lastly, how do I feel when I'm at home and in my car? All right, there we go. I'm back on. All right, so how do I feel when I'm in my car and feel in my home? So what needs more structure, right? What areas of my life maybe are not working? Maybe I'm waking up every morning in like a fury and running to get the kids ready and running to get my husband off and running to do this and running to do that and then running out of the house. Maybe that's my life, and I know that that's not working. I always like to say some people will almost create a life that they're surviving, and they're in survival mode. So they wake up first thing in the morning, and that's the first mode operandi, is to hit the ground running and to pretty much catch up where they left off, right? And so we honor that aspect of ourselves, but at the same time, we may take a step back and go, is that draining me? Do I need to refigure that? So what areas do I need more structure? Do I need more simplicity? Remember, the simpler the task, the simpler the item, the more you're going to follow through with it. So I always tell a story about my meal prepping, right? So most people are like, oh, go grocery shopping on one day a week, do the meal prep on Sunday, and have it all week, right? So I did that. I would go and I'd grocery shop and do all the things. Number one, I hate the grocery store, right? So I'm doing that even though I don't like it. Then I am coming home. I'm meal prepping all day. I don't really like to cook. I can cook really well, but I don't like it. It's not something that like I'm passionate about. It's not a hobby. I talk about food all day. The last thing I want to do is think about food when I'm home, right? And so it's very much fuel, right? That's all it is. And sometimes like, oh, this is really good, this is really yummy, but for the most part, it's fuel. So I look at my food, my relationship with my food, how is that going? How is that structure? And I go, you know what? I don't really like this. So the meal prepping once a week, normally what would happen is by Tuesday, Wednesday, I'd throw all the food out and be ordering out. Why would I do that? Because it wasn't exciting. I didn't have, maybe I didn't feel like what I planned on Sunday for Monday. So I needed some flexibility. So what did I do? I simplified the approach. I said, you know what? I'm going to have these ingredients. Number one, I'm going to stop grocery shopping, right? Because I don't like it. So it's leaking energy. So instead, I'm going to use an alternative method, whether that's online shopping, whether that was sending my husband, whatever may work, right? I'm going to not put that on my plate. Now, sometimes you won't be able to avoid certain things, and I get that. But in this case, there's a lot of outsourcing. You can order online, you can pick it up, you can have an assistant do it, you can have your partner do it, whatever, right? But for me, it was like, you know what? Going to the grocery store just doesn't serve. Then when I'm at the store, I go, okay, how can I make this easier? How can I make this simpler for myself? Meaning that, can I buy things already chopped? Can I buy things already prepped? Can I buy things that are quick and I can just heat up? Like one of my favorite dishes to make is a rotisserie chicken soup. right? And I will take all the chicken off, and I'll take the bones out. I'll stew the bone broth like overnight, like in with the actual bones. Then, I'll saute it. Anyway, it makes a super yummy soup, right? But it's things to make things simpler, make things more streamlined, make things structured. I'm so glad you love grocery shopping. It's not my thing. It's just not one of those things I enjoy, doing. So for me, it was like, okay, I need to take this off instead of trying to force myself to continue to do something that just wasn't in alignment with myself. So if you love it, beautiful, great. I love that for you. Um, and so I broke down the things that I needed. So obviously, if I'm eating healthy and doing the healthy things and I'm working and I'm busy so much, I need to make sure that I have, the staples around me so I can just go ahead and grab. So if I'm working and I need, let's say, a quick protein, I've got beans and rice already ready to go with some veggies, right? Oh, I love that. She says, so Universe Coach said it soothes her, which I love, right? For me, I'm just like, I want to get out of here. I need to get out of here. I've got so much other stuff to do. So I'm glad that there's an alternative. And see, this is why we do exercises like this, because it's unique for everybody, right? What soothes Universe Coach just grates on my nervous system. And so we don't want to just kind of assume we're fine. We want to take our time going, okay, what do I have the capacity for? What can I get done, etc. So my long-winded story about my meal prepping. Anyway, what ended up happening is simplify things where, yes, exactly, right? Depends on the store. So, adapting it to where really simple things, 5 ingredients or less, things that I could pre-prep. I can, batch cook. So like your beans and rice and your soups and your stews, things I could have, let's say, for dinner, and then have the leftovers for lunch. So things that would keep well. And so I like to kind of, I pretty much simplified it where I was cooking pretty much dinner most of the time, just dinner every night. And then my dinner would serve as lunch for the next day. And then while I'm making dinner, I may throw in some overnight oats. I may, get some smoothie items ready together for my breakfast. So really it came out to, I'm making pretty much 1.5 meals a day, because breakfast really only takes a couple minutes to throw together if you're using, instant oatmeal, or, you're whipping up some eggs or whatever, or smoothie. Typically your breakfast is not going to take that much time. So, my breakfast kind of staple, there we go. And then I'm preparing my dinner. So now my dinner serves as my lunch. So anyway, hopefully that makes sense. But it's about really looking at the different areas of your health, looking at the things that are working for you, right? What are the things that are just doing awesome, working well? What are the things that are not working for you? The things that are stressing you out, the things that are difficult, the things that are just, not helping you to excel, right? Because anything that's going to slow you down, or anything that's going to give you resistance, is not going to be supportive when you're trying to create a result in the area of your health. So we want to look at that. We want to look at what areas can I simplify it. I don't want to force myself. I want to be in alignment. And so I need to be in the inquiry of it, right? The last question that we ask before we move on is, how do I feel in my home? So your home is very much your sanctuary. It's your zen. It's where your nervous system should be able to reset and relax. So if your home is not a space where you can reset, your nervous system can't heal, it's probably you need to look at that and do some work around that area, whether that is because the relationship in your home is not working, or because maybe there's chaos in the home, or maybe, like for me, for instance, we had this ongoing water pump issue that was not resolving, and so I needed to resolve it on my own so that I could have peace, because it's distracting, right? And then every month, it kept breaking down, and so then I'm having to wait for somebody to come and fix it, and then it gets fixed, and then it breaks again, etc. So that really wasn't working for me, right? So we look at our home, right? And also to look at your clutter in your home, how much you're holding on to. I've had people where, they've had a lot of death in their family, unfortunately, and they keep a lot of that stuff. And so that heaviness stays in their home with them instead of releasing it. So obviously everybody's time for healing is unique to them. But just consider that that's one area that can really bog you down in the area of your health, in your environment. All right, so the other thing is your car, right? I'm going to take a sip of my Americano. Hmm, super yummy. Hmm. So your car is also a representation of you and your life and who you are and who you show up in the world, right? So what does your car look like? Is it messy? Is it chaotic? Is it you're running around from here and there, right? So is your car serving you, supporting you, taking you from point A to point B? Does your car need servicing? Has it not been serviced in a while? Is it safe? Do you need new tires that you've been putting off? What are the areas of your home as well as your car? Because these are expressions of who you believe yourself to be deep down. So take some moments to reflect on your lifestyle and your environment. I know I gave you lots of examples. Yes, exactly. I know deep cleans are so healing and so cathartic. I love a good deep clean. And, there's so many different methods, but I really believe if you love something, keep it. If you don't love it, throw it away, gift it, donate it, get rid of it, right? We take on so much stuff and we retain so much stuff. And from somebody who curates all of their things and loves all of their things, I get it, right? But in the same breath, we want to go in exactly and declutter. It's de-shedding, it's letting go, it's surrendering. And so if you have a hard time letting things go, surrendering, that's an area to be able to look and expand. So yes, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. So spiritually, right? Our walls keep so many different things. So Universe Coach asked, what do you think about cleaning walls, right? I think cleaning everything. Like I have a housekeeper who comes in twice a month, so every 2 weeks. Obviously we maintain the house in between, but it helps for that nice deep clean because my environment is really an expression of me. It's there to support me and nourish me and all the things. So cleaning the walls, cleaning the baseboards, cleaning the refrigerator out, cleaning the windows, going in the pantries, cleaning all that stuff. Yeah, no, absolutely. No, and too, like there's spiritual energy that stores and all of those things. So not even just the actual physical cleaning, but also your smudging, your Palo Santo, your rose water, your Zeng bell, all of the things you need to do to be able to clear the energy to make it really harmonious for you, because this environment is here to support you. So nobody really needs to understand what your kinks are, if you will, about your home, but you, because a lot of times people don't understand. So my home very much is my sanctuary. I keep it that way. I curate all of the things in my home. I keep it simple. I will throw stuff away in a heartbeat. I have no problem with that. And the same thing with a vehicle as well. Make sure it's clean when I get into it. I want to feel like I'm supported. I want to feel like I'm classy, like I'm elegant. I want to make sure that my home and my vehicle really they support the vision that I have. Let me take a couple sips of my Americano again. Mm. So there was a point in my business where my business was at a certain level and I wanted to level up, right? So I looked at my environment, right? I looked at my home. I was in a condo at the time, and the condo was cute. It was totally fine. But it was during COVID, so I was working insane hours, and there was people above me who actually the couple had 5 children above me in this condo, and they just moved in. And they were jumping up and down, and I wasn't home that much, but when I was home I needed to rest, I needed to be present, to relax, etc. And so my condo just wasn't working for me, right? And then when I looked at my car was great. I had a Volkswagen. I've had Volkswagens for years. I had a Volkswagen. It was good. It got the job done. But I kind of just felt this need to upgrade. So first thing I did, I upgraded my home. I added my gym to my home. This was back in the States. I added my gym to my home. It was this beautiful 4-story, 2 blocks from the beach. It really embodied and gave me the space and the room to expand. Right. And so it didn't fit my current vision. It fit my new vision of where I was going. Right. And then my car, upgraded my car. I wanted something, with a little bit more class, a little more, it's still a Volkswagen. I had it delivered, handmade and everything from Germany, and they delivered it. And it was like this big deal with a bow on it and the whole thing. And so, again, when you're leveling up, remember, right, sometimes you may have to stretch a little bit to get to that next level. Sometimes you need that environmental adjustment of your home or your vehicle to be able to help you to elevate. And so as I elevated my home, as I elevated my car, what else do you think happened? My life elevated. Eventually I elevated right up out of both of them and ended up manifesting my husband and moving out of the country and all the things. So again, sometimes, if your environment, you look around and you're like, you know what, this home doesn't represent who I am now or who I want to be, right? Or this car really doesn't represent who I am right now or who I want to be. It's okay to level it up, right? So obviously, don't go crazy. Don't be like, oh no, I'm going to go get a Lambo, even though you can't afford it. The thing is you want to stretch, right? And don't be afraid that you're not going to be supported, right? That's always the fear, is if I stretch a little bit, if I let this go a little bit, what's going to happen to me? The answer is it's always going to work out. And I know that's crazy, but trust me on this, it always works out. However it does, I can't explain it, but it truly does when you're clear. All right. So now let's look at an inventory of your relationships. So I want you to go through and just pick, I don't know, maybe the top 3 relationships. Yes, exactly. Your ecosystem. Your ecosystem has to be chef's kiss. Your home, your vehicle, and now we're going to look at your relationships, right? Your relationships need to be serving you in some way. So I was very happy being single, jet setting the world, and you know training with different indigenous healers and shamans and all kinds of things. And then boom, I met my husband, right? And I go, okay, right, now I have this new relationship. Is this new relationship expanding me, validating me, encouraging me, helping me to move forward? And I even told my husband in the beginning when we started dating, look, this is going to have to be so I'm going to teach you a little bit about business, right? And a balance sheet, right? So in a balance sheet or a profit and loss statement, you've got liabilities and you've got assets, right? You as an individual need to be more of an asset than a liability. If you are a liability to me, meaning that you are distracting me, you're stressing me, you're not listening, you're not honoring me, etc. All of those things are liability. They're taking my energy away. They're leaking energy from me. If that's the case, then you're sabotaging me, right? And so we need to make sure that you're an asset, not a liability, if you want to be around. Okay. If you don't care about being around, then do whatever you want. But I want you to be conscious of bringing something of value to me and to the table other than just the basics, right? Right. Fill in whatever the basics are. And so, again, when I'm evaluating my relationships, I take that kind of harsh look. It's like, look, what are you bringing to me? If you are bringing drama, stress, indifference, negativity, it's not going to work. I don't care how cute you are. I don't care how many names. I don't care any of that, right? I don't care any of that. Is your energy, right? Are you bringing something that's adding to my life, whether it's adding joy or peace or support or encouragement? And so even in relationships, every relationship isn't, supposed to complete you, right? I'm not Jerry Maguire. It's not this crazy thing. We have relationships that serve different aspects of ourselves. And I remember when I manifested all of these girlfriend relationships, because I wanted to have more girlfriend relationships, relationships at the time, I go, okay, what aspects of myself do I want to cultivate? So it's my creative self. So I found an artist friend, so we could talk all about creativity. And then I found a business friend, so we could talk all about business. And then I found a spiritual friend, so we could talk all about spiritual stuff. And I'm not saying that there can't be people that cross over, but I really wanted specific people that I could go to for those specific things, right? And so when I was building those relationships in my life intentionally, that's what I was thinking about. Now, when I was unconscious in my relationships, I would just pick up strays by the side of the road. So, somebody come up and we'd hit it off and we'd have a conversation. Oh, sure, great. Now you're my friend, right? So now everybody's my friend, right? But not everyone is good for me to be my friend. So this is a really good time to evaluate these friendships. And when we're evaluating them, how do they make you feel? Do they make you feel more affirmed? Do they make you feel more whole? Do they make you feel more encouraged, more motivated? Or are they draining, frustrating, stressful, time consuming? What do those relationships look like? So just spend a few moments, maybe the first, like one or two relationships that pop into your brain. There is a little star thing, so you can give them like a rating in terms of, one is like, look, this person is like absolutely an energy suck vampire. 5, I love spending time with this person. I can't get enough of them. We just have, so much in common, or whatever the case may be, right? So spend a couple moments, because again, your relationships, especially your closest ones, right? So when we talk about boundaries, we look at your close 5, right? Those are those red rope people. Those are your ride or dies. Those are your, they're with you till the end, right? Those are people you trust literally with your life. And then you have, maybe your acquaintances on outside of that, right? And then people you rarely know outside of that, like people you just met. And so exactly. People are in your life, like Universe said. People are in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And so evaluating those, not just defaulting them, super critical and important. I have in my own personal life, I allowed relationships to hold me back. And what do I mean by that? Meaning that I would keep people in my life who didn't really believe in me, or they'd have little negative things to say, or they'd self-deprecate, or I would celebrate them and be super happy for them, and then if something happened with me, they'd be like, wah, wah. They wouldn't share in that celebration. And so again, I had to really evaluate, are these people in my corner? Are they my cheerleaders? If it is not like a hell yes, like this person is not like jumping up and down for me, I don't want them in my inner circle, period. Right? I've had enough people in my life tell me all the things, all the self-deprecating things that I'm sure I've said even worse about myself. And so really, when you're looking at your, right, when you're looking at your relationships in your life, really make sure that you are finding those people that feed you, nourish you, love you, support you, encourage you. If they make you doubt yourself, be afraid, be self-conscious, you're comparing, you feel like you're having to kind of shrink yourself. I would have relationships where I'd have to shrink myself a lot, to make the other people feel comfortable. And so if that's the case, then that's not going to work. Before we move forward from relationships, one last thing. If your relationships are related, right? A lot of times what I'll ask myself is, if this person was not blood related to me, would I keep them in my life? Okay. And so sometimes we have loyalty to friends and family just because they've been in our lives forever, right? Like, oh, I grew up with this person. This person is my mother, my father, my sister, my brother, whatever. And so we have a hard time letting go because, oh, if I let this person go, what'll happen? As a for instance, right? So my two parents were not the greatest of parents. Like they just didn't have the skills to be parents, pretty much. And so if I let one go, right, I kind of cling on to the other one, because the thing is, right, exactly. What about those blood relations? Yeah. So what would happen is if my mother would fail me or abandon me or whatever she would do, or gaslight me or stonewall or whatever, then I would go run to my dad, right? And then my dad would do the same thing, and then I would go run to my mom, right? And I did this back and forth flip flop thing for years. Why? Because I could not in my mind go, I need to let both of these people go in my life, because neither one of these people can see me, or will allow me to be myself, right? Will allow me to be my big self. Will listen to all the crazy things, all the spiritual things that I'm talking about, or all the psychological things, or all the physical things, with the body or whatever, or just somebody who shows genuine interest. And so don't be afraid to let those relationships go, even if you think, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to me if I let XYZ go, right? And especially with your parents, definitely look at those. Yes, exactly. Definitely look at, how those relationships are impacting you on the long term. So spend a couple minutes there. I'm going to take a couple sips of my Americano. So yummy, I swear. Yes, exactly. Yes. Man, I spent too many years back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until it was like, you know what? Neither one of these people are serving me, meaning that I'm as long as I am shrinking myself, as long as I am making them comfortable, if I'm validating them, if I'm encouraging them, the relationship is good. But once I demand or even ask for the same in return, that's when a problem happens. That's when it becomes awkward. That's when it becomes difficult. That's when it becomes stressful. And so not even wanting to get into that, and not wanting to or needing to defend myself, or even have to get into that back and forth about who and what I am and how I show up in the world and all of that. If you're having to spend that much energy, not a good relationship. All right, so spend a couple more minutes and finalize that, and then we'll move into emotional and mental alignment. So remember, we are breaking this down step by step. So instead of just going right to the vision, what do I want to create? We're really getting clear about who it is we are right now and what we need to shift in order to be that person that has the capacity to hold on to that vision that you want. It's not that most people can't manifest what they want in life. It's that they really don't have the skills to maintain it. Meaning that they may get what they want, but then, they sabotage it, or, they abandon it, or they go, oh, I don't really want this anymore, or whatever, right? And so we want to first work on building your nervous system capacity so that you can not only manifest it and attract it, but also maintain it, and receive it, because your nervous system now feels like it's safe. If your nervous system doesn't feel safe to receive something, you will sabotage it hands down, right? I'm literally walking proof of that. All right, so hopefully your relationships looked clear. You can always go back to that, pause if you're watching the replay, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now we're going to move into emotional and mental alignment. Okay. So, when we look at our emotions, remember, our thoughts create our emotions, and then our emotions create our actions, and our actions create our habits, behaviors, and then ultimately our lifestyle. So, what are our predominant thoughts? What are we thinking all the time? Are you thinking I'm behind? Are you thinking I'm struggling? Do you think I'm poor? I'm fat? I'm overweight? I'm crazy? I'm stressed? What is it, those predominant thoughts that are always kind of going in, you're always kind of telling yourself, and you may not be aware of them right off the bat, but if you are, go ahead and jot them down. What are the thoughts that dominate your daily experience? Right? So every single day, what are you thinking about yourself, about the world, etc.? All right. Now, right? Hopefully, you got a couple of those. Now, where do I avoid discomfort? Yes, exactly. Yes, absolutely, exactly. Energy and motion. Our emotions are energy and motion, right? So, what are we hiding from? Okay, so sometimes this can be a little challenging because our conscious mind and our subconscious mind don't want to see what's really going on. And so, what are we trying to avoid? What is the discomfort that we're not trying to look at, right? What are we hiding out from, right? So, for instance, you know, I hid out in my work away from relationships for a long time, right? I'd have really bad romantic partners and, men, controlling men and, abusive men and all kinds of stuff. And so I said, you know what? I'm just going to go hide out in my work and I'm going to go focus on my work because that's a safe place, right? Well, what happens is that you're avoiding the discomfort, right? You're avoiding whatever is coming up in those relationships because unfortunately, our relationships bring about our triggers, and those triggers are opportunities for us to heal. They're also opportunities for us to see ourselves, right? And so, if I'm avoiding this discomfort, if I'm hiding out in this, I'm not going to actually be able to feel what's going on. You can also see that in terms of, do you go to drink? Do you want to have sugar? Do you avoid eating? What is it that triggers it, especially around your food, around your habits, around your lifestyle, around your behavior? What takes you out, right? So let's say you get a big bill in the mail, unexpected. Does that take you out? Does that shrink you? Does that shut you down? Does that stress you out to the point that you can't see it anymore? What does that look like, sound like, feel like? And again, if this is a new conversation to you, don't feel pressure to kind of figure it out, but just be aware of what, maybe you're like the king of the world, you're on top of the world, and then all of a sudden something happens and then boom, it shuts you down, right? Exactly. What are the things that shut you down and stop you from moving forward? So really get honest with yourself on the discomfort that may come up. All right. So then what patterns show up when change feels hard? Okay. So some of the patterns that show up usually when things get hard, people get into the conversations, right? They'll go, oh, I'm trying, right? I'm trying, right? And that whole I'm trying is, it's interesting. The trying is a little thing. The trying is, see, I'm making some effort, right? But then the trying is also, oh, I'm making some effort. So I can avoid accountability and I can avoid awareness and responsibility and cause and the matter and all that because I'm trying, right? And so we want to get out of this trying, right? You can't try to get pregnant. I mean, you can, but either you are or you aren't at the end of the day. And so that's what we want to look at. Are you or aren't you? It's not about trying. It's not about uh, constantly paddling the effort, but really committing to the process. So again, this is really about avoiding discomfort, shrinking, making yourself small. Any area of life that when you look at or when you confront it, you're like, ugh, immediately it shuts you down. It keeps you frustrated. It keeps you, small, lack, etc. Right. So what patterns show up? Also, some things, patterns that I've also seen too that often show up is people avoid and they go to sleep, right? So sometimes if a person is more on the depressive side, they'll just avoid something. Oh, I'm going to go to sleep, right? I don't want to look at this. I don't want to see this. I don't want to feel this. So I'm just going to go to sleep. I'm going to numb out, right? I'm going to go drink some alcohol. I'm going to go smoke something. I'm going to go party. I'm going to go work more. I'm going to go work out, whatever I'm going to do. I'm going to distract myself from actually feeling what it is that's coming up, right? And usually what's coming a lot with the subconscious and old thoughts and old behaviors and old actions and all the things, right? And we avoid it. We didn't want to deal with it the first time, so we're not going to deal with it now, and we're going to compartmentalize it. And so these are things that slow you down from creating the result that you want in your life. So we got to get that all cleaned up. We don't want to avoid. We don't want to run. We don't want to fight. We don't want to do one of these things. We want to really be able to see ourselves and what we're up to in our lives. So the last question on our mental and emotional is, when do I stop, get overwhelmed, and run away? Okay, so overwhelm is such a huge tool that people use in order to avoid accountability and responsibility. I know I'm one of those people who use overwhelm. So here's what I mean by overwhelm. So let's say if I have a unconscious belief that I'm not good enough, or that I can't rise to the occasion, or I'm not worthy, or I'm not lovable, or whatever. And I go and I try to expand and I try to do something, right, that's different. Maybe I'm, gonna apply for a different job, or try for a new relationship, or pitch my business idea to venture capitalists, whatever the use case may be. I'm putting that out there to expand, right? And so eventually my nervous system doesn't feel safe. It's like, wait a second, I'm going to expand. Oh, no, 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 I don't want to expand. I'm afraid. And so then cue the overwhelm. So if we can see overwhelm, or even stopping or running away, as an entity, right? And Carl Jung was a famous psychologist who talked a lot about shadow integration. And as we look at our shadow, right? If we look at overwhelm as an archetype, as a person, as an experience, right? That anytime I go to try to do something and it doesn't fit my narrative of I'm not good enough, or I'm not big enough, or whatever, right? I'm going to cue and bring in overwhelm to distract me. So I used to have an office, right, for like 15 years of family practice. And I would have papers on my desk, right? And usually by the end of the week, these papers would pile up, pile up, pile up. And then I'd organize them down, and then pile up and organize, pile up and organize. This back and forth, right? And so, and the more that these papers would accumulate, the more overwhelmed I would become, and the more I would not want to work and do them, because obviously they're overwhelmed. So I go, okay, enough of this pattern, right? I keep seeing this pattern of, the papers start to stack up. I clean the papers, then they start to stack up again. I've looked at all the organizational systems. It's not that. So I read this book, Organizing from the Inside Out, and it talks about, right, that sometimes when you're a child and you don't get affirmed, right, you don't have that self-esteem that most people have. And so what you do is you kind of create the chaos, and then you clean up the chaos as a way to go, a girl, right? And that was called the conquistador of chaos, right? And so it's interesting because while in some level the overwhelm was overwhelming and would take me out, but another aspect, when I conquered the overwhelm, it was like, yes, look at me, right? And so I had to look at that pattern, right? Yes, I had to look at that pattern of constantly sabotaging myself again and again and again, of over promising, under deliver, trying to scale, and then being afraid, and putting these structures in place, these over the top unrealistic things, and then cueing my friend overwhelmed to help protect me from keeping it going, right? And so recognize that your nervous system will use overwhelm and pull that feature in to be able to help affirm you, to help distract you, to help you feel uncomfortable, etc. Oh, wonderful. Exactly. So overwhelm, right, is we look at overwhelm as a friend, right? Not as a foe, but as a friend that gets cued, right? We can go, oh, when the overwhelm comes in, we can say, oh, you know what, overwhelm, I don't need you today. I get that you're here. I love you. I respect you. All the things. Thank you so much. I honor you. All the things, but not today. I think I'm good. I think I got this. I think I'm good. I'll let you know, right? So you can start to build a relationship. Now, overwhelm is a common one, but also just avoiding, right? Just like shutting down, and I'm not going to do anything. When my husband and I first started dating, right? It was so funny because he would disappear for like days. My husband's an avoidant attachment. So anytime we'd get close and build intimacy, he'd get afraid and run away, and would go like completely ghost for like 2 days. And then pop back up later and be like, hey, what's up? Like nothing happened. And I'm like, what is going on? Right. But I came to realize, right, that what was taking him out was overwhelm, but his coping strategy, because he couldn't handle all that love, so he would go run away to protect himself, right? Once I understood that process, I could view it for what it was, not an abandonment, not a rejection, not those things, but more so a self-protection for him. And then I could accept it more, right? Not that I liked it or any of those things, but my emotional stability was no longer dependent upon whether he was there or not there, right? So that was one thing I really learned about um, myself in the beginning of my relationship with my husband. So I'm very grateful for that. So our relationships can definitely help us to mirror back to us, maybe what we need to work on, what we need to heal, what we need to process, etc. And so our relationships are really good window and insight into perhaps what a mental or emotional things may be stuck. So definitely consider that as you do this inventory. All right, as always, you can take your time going through. If you're watching the replay, you can pause, etc. Now we're going to move into our values, right? So our values proposition, right? So what is our values? So what values matter most to me? So if you are taking the New Patient Collective, so with this particular course, there's also another free course for you that you'll get access to afterwards. It's called the New Patient Collective, and it pretty much teaches you from beginning to end how to be a patient, especially a patient for a holistic doctor, because a lot of times people don't realize what it takes to be a patient, right? They're focused on what it takes to be a provider and what am I looking for in a provider and all of that, but we don't reflect on who I'm showing up as in my co-partner, in my co-treatment. So in the beginning of my New Patient Collective, I go over my values, what my personal values are, what my business values are, because they're different. My personal values of, let's say, innovation or authenticity, while those translate well in business, it's not as strong as, let's say, my integrity or my efficiency, right? Which are more applicable to my professional life, not necessarily my personal life, right? So I have a set of values for myself personally. I have a set of values for my patients, and then I also have a set of values for my business, right? So business, patient, and then myself, right? So when I am, let's say, examining a new patient opportunity, let's say I'm doing a discovery call as a for instance, right? I'm looking at my values and going, do my values align and do they match with this individual? Meaning that some of my values for my patients are communication, right? Vulnerability, honesty, right? Is this patient willing to be vulnerable? Is this patient willing to look? Are they willing to allow me in to be able to assist them or help them? Or do they have all these walls up and they're impenetrable, right? And I'm not going to now try to scale, I'm not an emperor or anything, or warrior, Xena warrior princess or anything crazy, right? And so when I am looking for canvassing potential patients for my practice, right? I'm looking for these particular set of core values. So your values clarification really helps practically in your day-to-day, helps you to stay in alignment with your decision making. Any decisions I make, I often check them with my core values, meaning that I go, okay, I want to go, let's say I want to add this new thing to, I'm so glad I helped you out. I want to move into this new venture, right? Or I want to add on this new relationship, or, I'm thinking about, going into this new partnership. I'm always going to bring it back to my values, my core values, right? So what makes me tick? Again, I spent time doing this. I didn't rush through it. We're bringing awareness to it, but don't feel like you need to rush through it. There's a specific exercise I do with this where we kind of list out all your values. You spend a few weeks and you whittle it down, and you really want 5 core values. So let's look at the questions that in the workbook to kind of jog some of your ideas and your creativity around your values. So what values matter most to me in this season of my life? So your values can change. They don't have to be the same. Where does my current life align with these values, right? So naturally, when I was in brick and mortar private practice, my values were a little bit different. It was overwork, right? That seems to be my values. Whereas my values now are about balance, are about, controlled effort, are about taking my time. It's not about rushing through things and slapping things together and fixing things, etc., but really rather being intentional and being present and making sure that the work product I produce is in alignment with what I want. So definitely different. We're shifting out of that fear-based survival into more of intentional. Also, like I said, a lot of people are picking up stray animals by the side of the road in people because they want to fix them, save them, whatever the case, avoid their own reality, whatever the case may be. And so this is another good tool to go, okay, is this person that I've attracted into my life, do they match up to the standard that I've created or set for myself, or are they somebody lower on the totem pole that I've manifested and attracted for my little at a girl at the end of the day because I rescued a a stray animal. So looking again at your values to see, okay, are these people really bringing some assets to my life, or are they bringing liability? All right, so where does my current life align with these values? Where does it not? Right. So again, one of my values in business and personal is integrity. If words and actions aren't in congruence, I'm sorry, you're out of my life. And I've done that with friends, I've done that with family, I've done that with all kinds of people. Why? Because it's about me managing my own energy, managing my nervous system, healing my capacity, and not keeping anything wishy-washy kind of in my field. All right. Last question on your values. Does my home, work, family, relationships align with my values? Now, again, if you haven't defined your values, I would take about the next 3 to 4 weeks. I would Google a values worksheet. If you need one, feel free to DM me. All these different values. Spend a few sessions, if you will, like whittling them down. Like I think the first session I sat with the core value sheet, I whittled it down to like 10, right? And then I went back to it again and whittled down maybe another 3, and then whittled it down to maybe, another 6 or whatever. Eventually I got down to about my top 4 or 5 most values. And these are values that when I look at them, they inspire me, they light me up, I feel great, innovation, authenticity, integrity, those are all really, really important to me, and they drive my why. And so think about that when you're thinking about your values. Again, your values are not like on the scrolls. Like you can change them, especially as seasons change and life evolves, etc. But you really want to kind of stick with a few core ones that maintain just overarching. I love integrity. I think it's one of the greatest values that you can have for yourself as well as other people. But some people have different values, and that's all good. All right, so that's your values clarification. So your values, yes, values, yes, okay, yes, totally, yes. I will send the replay out. Yes. So when we're looking at your values, your values really drive your decision making. So again, if I'm like, okay, I'm a high integrity person, I'm into innovation, into authenticity, I'm into communication, and so okay, I'm going to meet this new person. Okay, are they into the same things? Are they into integrity? Are they into communication? Are they honest? Are they authentic? Right? Do they match? Or are they draining me? Are they shutting me down? Are they frustrating me? Are they distracting me? What is happening in this relationship? Do these values match up? Or even in business ventures, right? If I want to be innovative or authentic, am I going to go into a business venture that's kind of got the same old played out tape again and again and again? No, because it doesn't fit my values of authenticity and innovation. Let's say I'm presented with a new friendship, right? And maybe this friend wants me to do this, that, and the third, right? Does this friend, does this relationship, does this action match up with my core values? If I'm constantly having to defend myself, defend my word, set my boundaries, reaffirm my boundaries, etc. Again, that is too much work in a relationship. And so I really need to look at, does this relationship serve my values? It's a great logical place to rest, right? It's just simple yes or no. Now, I'm not saying that they're not people that will still make it into, the inner circle, even if they don't fit all of your values perfectly, and that's totally okay. So just know, okay, they may not serve all of my values, but maybe they serve these two. Or, maybe I only go to them for this particular need, so I don't need all these other things. So there's lots of combinations. Please be flexible with yourself, and please take your time. So, all right. So all of that up until this point has really been your inventory in terms of where you are today. Most people, they just want to jump into the vision, they want to jump into the creating, they want to jump into the manifestation. And so if you haven't done the work up until this point, please pause the video and go back and really go through and finish all the rest of that out. Now, I'm going to go through how we create your vision, but it's important to recognize that we do need to go through and we do need to clean up all the old stuff first and get really clear, because that's going to help this part 2 buzz by. So make sure that you've gotten done part 1 before moving into part 2. Otherwise, your results are going to fall flat. All right, so now we want to create a vision. So now we have assessed, we've looked at our personality, we've looked at our relationships, we've looked at our values, we've looked at, the areas of our life. We've examined it all. And we have a clear understanding now of who we are, who we choose to be, who we show up in the world, right? So now we want to begin to take all of that information and now begin to create a vision, right? So a vision, a lot of times, is desire attached to a purpose. So I have a desire, let's say I have a desire to be married and be in a relationship, which I had a desire for that for a long time, right? So part of my vision is to be happily married, not just married, but happily married, right? In order to have that vision, right? Who do I have to be? Who do I have to show up as? What are my values? What do I need to get rid of? What do I need to cleanse? What boundaries do I need to put in place? Who do I need to be around? Who do I need to be in my world to manifest and create? So this is going to kind of go into creating your vision. So we want to make a connection to who you are choosing to be and show up as, and how that translates into your vision. All right. So remember, we are focused on your health in this particular thing, but you can do it on anything. You can do it on your work. You can do it on your relationships. You can do it on finances, any of those things that make your life tick, your parenting, etc. Anything that you want to do your vision around. I would focus on one area only. So in this case, we're going to focus on your health, because again, I'm a holistic doc, and you can't have any of these things unless you have your health. So first things first, 1 year from now, how do you want your health to feel? So now, not thinking, but feeling. Right? So how do I want my body to feel? So when I look in a year from now, I want to be flexible. I want my 6-pack. I want to be fit. I want to be trim. I want to be mobile. Right? And how does that feel in my body? Right? How do I want my days to flow? Right? I want to wake up refreshed. I want to have a lot of energy. I want to work through my day. I want to be inspired, enthusiastic. I don't want to overwork. I don't want to underwork. About 3 to 4 hours a day of concentrated work and effort, and the rest of the time kind of having to myself to reflect and heal and do all the things that I do. Right. So how do I want my days to flow? How do I want to start my days, present my days, show up for my days, and how do I want my days to be in the end, right? And what feels different in my body, my mind, and my environment. So as I look at creating this, it's not just about putting all these ideas on paper. It's also a matter of, what do I look like? What does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like to live this life, right? So if I just visualized, imagine, pictured, and pretend with my logic, voice, and reason, very keen and specific decision making, what were to occur, how would I feel, what would I look like, sound like, etc. How would I express with this new vision, right? And so spending some time to allow yourself to go there. And sometimes that just allowing yourself to go there can bring up a lot of emotional discomfort and a lot of fear and a lot of hesitation and a lot of lack and a lot of the old junk that needs to be cleared out. So we want to look at what feels different between who you be today, that's why doing that pre-work is so important. And then who you want to show up as, right? So I'm in this transition of showing up as more of a relaxed, more of a teacher, more of as an educator, more as a support person, right? And less of, oh, I'm just a doctor, and all the doctor steal, blah, 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 right? So, how do I want to show up in the world? I want to be approachable, I want to be fun, I want to be loving, supportive, all those things, for people to come in and be directed towards me. And how is that going to be different than how it is for today? So really get an idea and spend some time with this. Again, this is just a short webinar to introduce you to the information, but not necessarily to complete it. So what's your vision for your health and your life in 12 months? Visualize that, imagine it, picture it, etc. All right. So now let's look at your blind spots and your secondary gains. So as you kind of create this beautiful vision, right, of how you want to be, and you're feeling it in your body, and you're all enthusiastic about it, and you've got some inspired action, there's going to be some inevitable blind spots, some fears, some resistance that comes up along the way. So what do I gain by staying the same? So if I get to stay the same, what do I lose? What do I gain? How does that go, right? So if I chose to stay in that brick and mortar family practice, right? Patients would sort of get the work that they needed, right? But it would be at my expense. I would feel exhausted and worn down and felt kind of used and not, I just didn't feel healthy overall, right? I didn't feel like it was embodying myself, right? I felt like it was, really preventing me from being able to move forward, right? With my life and my vision as a healer and a teacher, and it was kind of getting in the way of my legacy, right? So when I imagined my life as, peaceful, relaxed, working 4 hours, being married, kind of, what fears came up, right? Of course, like I can't afford it. And what do you mean? This is crazy. And how am I going to find the right partner? And, what are all the logistics behind it? Excuse me. What are all the logistics behind it? How is this going to work? How am I going to make this happen? Right. So I really needed to get all of that out on paper, because if I didn't acknowledge it, it was just kind of operating in the back, and that could sabotage me. So naming it, claiming it, acknowledging it, feeling the difference of it, and then processing through it so that you're not holding on to it, right? All right, as we're looking at our blind spots, we look at what support, right, we need. A lot of times we don't know to ask for support, or it's awkward to ask for support, or we feel like support should just be given without asking or assumed. I know I'm really horrible at that. I just assume that people are going to know how to be human, and they don't. So what support, really would be ideal? Do I need, a hype man? Do I need somebody who, is cooking and cleaning for me? Do I need somebody who is, managing my time, managing my schedule? Who is it, or what is it that I need? Do I need an upgrade my systems? What support do I need to make it simple, to make it fluid, to make it effortless? Again, this is about doing less work, not more, right? All right. All right. So last question, your blind spot is recognizing when you've chosen yourself, right? And you've chosen yourself first. So often we've gotten into patterns of, we have a desire, we have a need, we have a want, and it's been shot down so many times. We've been told we can't do it. We've been told we're not good enough. We've been told to shrink indirectly or directly. So a lot of times we don't feel comfortable, right? And so I want you to really have this experience of, when I've chosen myself first, how does that feel? Do I feel anxious? Do I feel nervous? Do I feel frustrated? Do I feel scared? What is that feeling? What is that experience? Because again, that could be holding me back from really allowing myself to go there and to expand, especially again, if I've played small or played below my, vital force life energy. All right. So blind spots is always all of these things are working. So your blind spots and your secondary gains, your blind spots are things you can't see, touch, taste, feel, but they come up usually as resistance, breakdowns, emotional responses, nervous system regulation issues, all kinds of things. Your blind spots are really there to protect you from being vulnerable. Same thing with secondary gains. A lot of times we hold on to secondary gains. So you're a human being having a human experience in every single moment. Who are you being? Who are you showing up as? If you have a fixed way of being, meaning that you keep showing up a certain way over and over and over again, what that means is that you have what we call a secondary gain, meaning that holding on to my invalidation of self or holding on to my shaming and blaming of myself validates my inability to expand and to live my full potential, right? Because if I know, hey, I can never do well, or I can never, get myself together, whatever, I'm not going to try. It's going to instantly kind of kill that motivation and give my mind an out to not have to work and not have to push past discomfort. And so we don't want to listen to those old tapes, right? We want to break free from that because it's about us controlling our minds, our bodies, and our experiences, not the other way around. We don't want our emotions or our nervous system that's dysregulated to hijack our experience and lead us into all kinds of places. So honoring that is really crucial. Yes, blind spots are really, really important to look at. Blind spots can really come up with partners, with healers. I know patients experience a lot of blind spots when they're working with me, where they're like, oh, I didn't know this would come up, or we're having a conversation and they start crying, or they get angry, out of nowhere, etc. That's how we know we've kind of crept up on a blind spot because it's been triggered. And so it was blind, unconscious before, and so now it gets triggered, and now it comes to the surface to be dealt with. All right, as we shift our identity from, again, that older, maybe more reserved, more passive energy into more of this conscious, movable energy, we want to ask ourselves, who are you becoming, right? So do you want to be more loving, more kind, more supportive, more generous, more prosperous? Who is it that you want to show up in the world? More grace, more sophistication, more class, right? And so who do I have to let go of, right? I have to let go of kind of that ratchety teenager, who didn't get her way, who wasn't protected, who wasn't loved, who, was a little scrappy for a long time. In order for me to step into the grace, the poise, the sophistication of this international healer and this internationally recognized doctor, I have to let go of that scrappiness. I have to let go of that survival. I have to let go of that fear of not being enough or not showing up big or whatever the case may be. So we want to look at how that old identity links to that new one and what it is that we need to let go, right? Naturally, we need to also look at what is our new identity need to feel supported, right? So for me to feel supported, having my husband home, helping me, having my maid come in, having, my meals prepared for me, all of those things really helps me to be able to focus so that I can live my best life, do my best work, etc. Right? I read that book, as many people in business do, that 4-Hour Work Week by Ferris. Well, I don't necessarily agree with him per se, right? I do like the concept of the 4-Hour Work Week, where anything that is not your hourly rate, you outsource, right? Now, some people can't necessarily outsource everything, especially in the beginning of changing things in their world. But think about that. Put a value assessment on your time, on your energy. And again, anything that's not resonating with that, because think about it. I can spend, let's say, an hour generating $1,000, or I can spend an hour cleaning my bathrooms and generating nothing. So maybe I spend that hour being creative, generate $1,000, and then maybe take 100 of that and pay my cleaner so that she keeps my environment supported, so that I feel safe enough to create, manifest, etc. So that's kind of how that works. So what new identity or what needs do your new identity have to be supported? And be audacious with this. Like, it doesn't have to be, like, for instance, my new identity needs to fly private. Like, have I flown private ever? No. But my new identity needs it, right? And so I'm going to put myself in that feeling of opulence, elegance, support, luxury. I can put myself in the feeling of that without costing anything. So I'm going to continue to do that until it becomes my prominent reality and my prominent identity. All right. And then lastly, in terms of your identity shift, what aspects and areas of my body feeling uncomfortable, if any, when I'm stepping into my new identity? So when you visualize, imagine, picture, and pretend this new, graceful, sophisticated, world-renowned, international physician, right, or doctor, because we can't use the word physician as holistic doc. So doctor, right? When I step into that, right, where do I feel that in my body? Do I feel it in my chest where there's grief and disappointment from past failures? Do I feel it in my stomach where I feel afraid to move forward? Maybe I'm afraid of rejection or failure or whatever. Maybe I feel it in my knees because I'm just stuck and overwhelmed and not moving forward. Where do I feel it in my body, and how can I create resonance? So again, this is another exercise to spend time with. This is not a fast, in a hurry kind of thing, but definitely something that you can work on to bring in this new identity. All right, so hopefully, as you've been following along and doing some of the exercise-ish, right, your dreams and desires have come up. So this section is to, as your thought process comes and as you, new desires, new dreams, new ideas come in, just jot them down. Doesn't mean you have to put any structure behind them or support them, but this should really be a working place for you to continue to put out your desires and your dreams, right? If you are a vision board person, once you have created your desires and dreams, I don't do the cut and paste kind of vision boards anymore. What I'll do is I will do vision board on, let's say, Canva, and then I'll take it and I'll resize it. I'll put it as a wallpaper on my phone. I'll put it as a wallpaper on my desktop. I'll put it in different areas where I can see it and it keeps affirming it. So as I've worked on my new identity, maybe I'll have like pictures of, Grace, like Grace Kelly, or, somebody that looks really sophisticated, or, somebody like, who's, like Josephine Baker, or somebody really just like, exotic people, really, I'll put those on my vision and really more so to trigger my mind and, oh yeah, this is who I am showing up as. This is who I be in each and every day. So definitely think about that when you're looking at that. So this part of the workbook does help you really bring this new vision of this new identity to life. And so you can kind of work with that to get your vision board organized before you create it. Again, you can create a paper copy, totally fine with that. Or, as I like to do it, a digital one with Canva. All right. Again, more brainstorming, what I want to be, who I want to be, how I want to show up in the world. Think about all your questions: who, what, when, where, why, how, all of those. The more you can define that in your new identity, who you want to be, what you want to be, how you want to be, when you want to be. Think about like almost like Madonna, right? Look at how many personas and identities Madonna has taken on, right? From like a virgin, like a prayer, Vogue. What were some other ones that she did? Some of her later work. I can't remember the songs off the top of my head, but looking at her albums and looking at how much she's changed, and we look at them individually. There are literally individual people, right? Like a prayer and like a virgin, very different from, let's say, Vogue, right? Vogue, more sophisticated, more high end, more fashion oriented. Like a prayer, like a virgin, little schoolgirly, kind of unhealed wound trauma, like segue into, you know what I'm saying? So look at, again, you can go back and revisit this anytime you're not happy, you're not pleased with your external world. Remember, your internal is a direct response of what's going on external. So if you don't like your external world, start looking from within, and just start being curious. You don't have to fix it, change it, make anything different. Just start to get a little curious. So we have approached the 90-minute mark. Again, I'm going to leave a little bit of time for you to do. We're buzzing through. We're almost done. So thanks for being patient with me with our kind of rough start. And again, you'll have the replay. All right. So, what do I want to have? Right, is another question. Right. So, this can be as tangible as you want. I want to have, this house. I want to have this car. I want to have this amount of money in the bank. To people, right? I want to have this relationship or this experience or this, um, you know, um, uh, you know, event happen in my world, right? Who is it that I want to be, and what do I want to have, right? What do I want to do, right? So, experiences. I want to go here. I want to see this. I want to have this, right? What do I want to do, and how do I? All of these questions are really just designed to trigger different parts of your brain, different parts of your creativity. Remember when you were a little kid and you played make believe, or dress up, or whatever imagination, right? We didn't scrutinize it as adults. We didn't go, oh, you can't do that because of this, oh, that's not realistic. We didn't quash that. So part of this exercise is giving yourself the freedom and asking yourself, exactly, enlightenment, asking yourself these questions to expand different areas of your mind as well as your life. All right. So now the final part of this is turning our visions into goals. So spend a lot of time doing that work. We're talking a few weeks. This is not a practice to do immediately. I know I'm doing this at the beginning of the year, but this is something that I literally spend about 3 months on, really getting clear of who I am, who I want to be, and I have to tease out who I'm not, who I have been, and then again, who I'm stepping into and who I want to be. That pre work is going to make this part so much easier. If you skip that part because you think, oh, that's, fluffy or whatever, this part is going to be chaotic. Right. So the more you do the pre work, this part is very practical. This part is very easy. So, again, once you have really sat with and developed your idea of who you're going to be, it becomes really easy. So when I go, hey, I want to transition from this brick and mortar, family practice doctor who was, kind of, everybody's family doctor, right? That old school family doctor, to now I want to, be an influencer. I want to educate. I want to be more on the international stage, right? And so who I was, right, while that was amazing, right, as I want to level up, right, what do I need to do? So every single day, right, what am I going to do? I'm going to forward working on my goals, maybe show up online, maybe do a course, maybe send an email, a text message, etc. I try to stick to 3 to 5 tasks that I complete every single day that move me a little bit more. I love that saying of like 10% more than you did another day, right? A lot of times when things are difficult, when things are stressful, it's like, why do I want this? And so affirming why you want this when it gets hard, when it gets difficult, so that you're aware, right? Any limiting beliefs that come up, you can't, you won't, you're overwhelmed, etc. The resources and tools I need to support myself. Do I need, to book a coaching session? Do I need to take a day off just to let my body or mind rest? Do I need to clean up my diet? What do I need to do in order to support myself? And then lastly, those first couple steps to get me started in this new awareness and this new identity. So again, spending time building this foundation is going to help you when we start kind of working in the future. Any of those limiting beliefs that come up, this is a working list, right? So limiting beliefs come up such as I can't, I won't, I shouldn't, I wouldn't, all of that kind of stuff. We would, should, and could all over ourselves. As those limiting beliefs come up, we catch them, we acknowledge them, we don't push them away, we don't make them any different, we accept them exactly as they are, right? So if I'm continuing to affirm myself that I can't do it, I'm not enough, etc., we want to acknowledge that. We don't want to push it away, we don't want to pretend it doesn't exist, we don't want to gaslight ourselves. Instead, we go, okay, so I recognize, right, that I have a limiting or false belief that I'm not good enough, right? So I'm just going to be there. I'm going to be with that. And I'm going to be with where I feel that in my body, right? Because a lot of times it's an inner child wanting to be healed. So I may need to reparent my inner child. I may need to do some conscious communication. I may need to journal around it. I may need to do some EFT. I need to work with that limiting belief, because that belief is creating an emotion that more than likely is going to send me in disaction, right? What is disaction? Disaction is not being in action. right? So when I'm inspired, I'm motivated, and I'm on top of my game, the actions just, they become limitless, right? But when I'm bogged down, when I have an old limiting belief coming up, an old identity coming up, what's going to happen? I'm not going to gain that traction because those limiting thoughts. I can't do this. I'm wrong. I'm bad. I'm always this. I'm always that. Right? That little voice in the back of our head, you know which one I'm talking about. That's the gatekeeper of these limiting beliefs. And that's a real source of where we lose our power when we're trying to create a new identity. So this sheet helps you to catch them, right? So let's say I'm not good enough, right? We go, oh yeah, I'm more than good enough. I'm more than enough. I'm more than, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So we want to catch that and reframe that literally in the moment. All right, cool. So, all right, let's see. All right. So we looked at the limiting beliefs and the reframes. Now we want to create vision, right? So limiting belief serves as our old, vision and affirmation serves as our new. So, okay, so I'm going to identify these limiting beliefs. I'm not good enough. I'm small. I'm wrong. I'm bad. I need to be punished, all that stuff. And then I'm going to create reframes, but then also affirmations. So let's say I don't feel good enough, right? And I've realized that that has been imprinted because of some trauma that happened in my childhood, right? It doesn't really matter what the story is. What matters is how that child feels, how you feel, right? And the more you can acknowledge how you feel, process through that old wound, that old hurt, and then reframe it into something. Now, I'm not talking about spiritual bypass or toxic positivity. You really have to acknowledge what it is you're feeling and just be with it initially before you reframe it or affirm it into something else. That's why we spent all that time doing all that upfront work to kind of get to this point. So we want to affirm to ourselves. So remember the vision of what I want to be, what I want to do. How does that make me feel, look like, sound like, feel like, etc. And then what are the affirmations? So let's say if I don't feel good enough, and some of it is connected to not being heard or not being seen. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say to myself, I'm going to affirm, I am acknowledged, I am seen, I am heard, because those needs have not been met, are not being met, and I can't expect other people to meet them until I meet them within myself, right? And so that's really difficult, I think, for a lot of people because they're always looking outside of themselves for that affirmation or looking outside of themselves for that support and that encouragement rather than seeking it from self. The more you seek it from within self and the more you establish it for yourself, the more unfuckable with you become, number one, and the more the world is going to show up in that way, right? When I affirm and I consistently affirm, I'm acknowledged, I'm loved, I'm accepted, I'm supported, all those things naturally, literally within 24, 48 hours, it starts showing up, right? But when I default into the old traumas, the old dramas, the limiting beliefs, the secondary gains, and oh, it can never get well and it's never going to be da, 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 and all that negative thinking, right? I'm just going to keep creating off of that. And so I'm never going to see the result. So this is beyond just fake it till you make it. This is affirm it until it becomes your reality. And again, shouldn't take long if you start to affirm using powerful I am statements. I am acknowledged, I am loved, I'm supported, I'm grounded, etc. Boom, you're going to then witness that pretty quickly in your external experience. So all right. So goals, you want to set out those different areas, family, relationship, health, well, you don't have to choose them all. You can focus on one. You can focus on up to three areas of your life. Again, take your time doing this. Don't rush through it. It's not, you don't have to get it all done. We're so much taskmasters. We want to get everything done. This is, again, a fluid practice that you can work through really throughout the entire year. Looking at 2027 as well, so it's not just this year. You can also look at, so hey, this year is kind of a little packed. Let's start sending it off to the next year, especially as you begin to do this work and bring it into your daily practice. Your actions. Okay, so let's recap for a minute. So you've cleaned up the old, you've acknowledged what's going on. Now it's not like totally clean, but you're cleaning it up, you're looking at your limiting beliefs, you've got some tools to be able to reframe, process, affirm, all of those things. Now, what's going to naturally happen is you're going to get inspired action. What do I mean by inspired action? Meaning that it's like right off the top of your head, once you cleared the debris and cleared the mess, immediately your mind goes, oh, I need to do this. Oh, I need to call this person. Oh, I need to take care of this. Oh, I need to. Immediately those actions begin to fall into your brain, right? Now, whether you act on them or not, that's a whole other thing. But that's why I really help you to understand that once you make your mind up, right, that you're willing to do this no matter what, your emotions will then be directed. So your mind is telling your emotions what to do. So if I say, no matter what, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, right? My emotions are going to be motivated, determined, accomplished, all of those things, right? And then my actions are going to, again, fall in alignment with that emotion, because my emotion's pretty much like my gas. Somebody said earlier, energy and motion, right? So it's like my gasoline that keeps me going, right? And so that's what makes it effortless. That's what makes these actions move. That's what makes it so you're not stagnated and using your willpower to survive. This is more energetic. This is more in alignment. This is like, oh, it's so easy. Oh, I could do this all day kind of thing. That's why that 3 to 5 tasks every single day, working towards your result, is all that's necessary. Even if maybe one of your things is to work on this workbook, right? That is a valid part of the process. So no matter how small or how big, any sort of action or movement, again, that 10%, the next thing. I think a lot of times we're geared towards looking for the big picture. We want the big bang. We want the big success, not realizing all the little actions that need to be in place prior to us, creating the actions that we want. Exactly. I'm acknowledged, I'm seen, I'm heard. Those are like my favorites, honestly. I think those like heal just most anything within me anyway. So yes. All right. Integration and next steps. Okay. So now you've got your actions, right? You've done all the deep dive work. You've got some of your inspired actions. Now we want to integrate them, right? So if I know I need to maintain this, right? I need to spend maybe 5 minutes a day journaling, or 15 minutes a day meditating, or 20 minutes a day moving my body. I need to put it into workable format. So what are my top priorities? Grow my business, build my marriage, build my financial portfolio, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What are those things on a daily basis that's going to move me forward, right? Maybe it's a daily meditation. Maybe it's a daily journaling. Maybe it is affirming. Maybe it is, this is where all of your fun manifestation techniques come in, where you're doing maybe state of peace sleep, or you're doing visualization, or you're doing tapping, or, you're doing, your vision board or whatever. So we want to start to create the day. A lot of the times I will try to create the day of, like, from my perspective of my ideal self, my already manifested identity, and what that day will look like, when I wake up, when I go to bed, when I work, etc. Right. And sometimes putting myself in that mind frame and then creating my day from that perspective. Like, if I've already created and achieved everything I wanted, what is my day going to look like? Sometimes that can be helpful, because then I can look at what my day looks like now versus what my day is going to look like. And then I can see some immediate shifts that need to happen. So if it's like, oh, I want to wake up and work 4 hours a day. Okay. If I'm waking up and I'm lagging, I'm tired because I've gone to bed late, or whatever the case may be, my immediate shift is, okay, I need to go to bed early. I need to get more rest. I need to, shift my work days, whatever. So again, going through these steps really helps to bring new awarenesses, and most of the time things you weren't even conscious of, which I love. All right. So now, once you have gotten your actions, right, you can look at them on a quarterly basis, we start off with annual. So what do you want to achieve at the end of 2026? What do you want to achieve at the end of 2027? How do we want to break these down into your 3 quarterly mile markers? So we break down from an annual into quarterly priorities, what things do I need to have completed by the end of this quarter that's going to move me forward. And that really serves as the basis of your 12-week plan. So if you think, okay, so I'm really clear about what I want and how I want things to go and how I want things to be. And so now I've established some of my actions over the year that need to be accomplished. So, for instance, my school accreditation needs to be complete, all my curriculum I want completed, and teaching almost a round of all of my classes. So those are some of my annual plans, right? And then I break that down into 12 weeks. So I've already done the research on the accreditation bodies. And so submitting those paperwork, maybe I'm going to submit 2 a quarter, 1 a quarter, et cetera, however that plan is going to go. And so over time, that momentum is going to keep growing and building and building. And so again, that 10% difference really makes huge. And you don't think so, right? Because a lot of times we're looking for that big bang, not realizing it's a marathon and not a sprint. So we're not going to, wake up, we're an instant success after 20 years, it's not quite built out that way. And I think sometimes it's frustrating because we do want that big bang. We want that big viral moment. We want that big, and for the most part, most of us that are successful have drudged day in and day out, just like we're doing right now. We've gone through, we've worked through, we've healed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and we just kind of keep whittling through. So we want to build it annually, quarterly, and our quarter is 12 weeks, just so you know, because 4 weeks are in 12, and so in a quarter as well. And then that is going to naturally help you with your daily routine. So I know when I structure my day, beginning, middle, and end of my day. So beginning of my day, where I wake up, do my morning flow, do my workout, do my meditation, set the intention for my day. And then my middle of the day is structured. I've got my 3 to 5 tasks I need to complete that's going towards my goal. And then my end of the day, I'm going to reflect on what I maybe haven't accomplished in my day. I'm going to heal, forgive myself for what I haven't done. And then I'm going to reaffirm what I'm going to accomplish in the next day. I also give room to acknowledge myself for the work that I've done in that day. And so that's a daily practice that when I maintain it, right, then each day builds momentum over the last. And then I look back and I go, wow, look at all that I've accomplished in this period of time. And it was done, again, a little bit consistently, deliberately over an existing period of time, not the big bang like most of our dopamine centers want. Right. All right. So this is that creating results. We're not going to go over this part of the workbook because we've done all of the work up until this point. So the next part is really up to you as we kind of wind down. And it's about you gaining clarity over who it is you want to be, who you've been, who you've shown up in the world as, who you want to be in the future, and what's the difference? What's the difference between who you be and who you've been, right? So who you be now in the moment and in the future, and who you've been in the past. A lot of times people create personas in order to survive life in the past, and those tools, strategies, skills, wisdoms, etc., no longer serve us when we're transitioning to our new way of being and our new life. So this exercise, this activity is really designed for you to spend some time. Again, we kind of buzz through these really meaty areas, but really spend significant time. I used to feel like I had to rush through everything when I was younger. Now it's all about savoring things, slowing things down, being poised, being focused, and just doing a little bit every single day is really, really key. So in our creating results workbook, it breaks everything down for you so you can work through on your own. All that kind of pre-work is what I wanted to go over with you in the webinar. So as you see going through, it really breaks everything down for you so that you can understand it in a simplified format. This workbook is completely free with our webinar. So if you are registered for the webinar, you will also get this free workbook. If you haven't gotten it or you haven't registered for the webinar, feel free, again, free $3.99 as a way to really get clear for your year and ultimately your life. So it goes through each section, like your goal setting and what that looks like, what that sounds like, how you create your goals to results, language and communication, and the importance of that because you want to affirm. You don't want to keep reaffirming the old stuff. How your affirmations act as anchors. So we kind of went over that. And intention to evidence. So seeing the etherical, like I was telling you, anytime I'm kind of feeling down and I affirm, I'm acknowledged, I'm seen, I'm heard, all those things, boom, it shows up as evidence, usually within 24, 48 hours. So kind of walks you through that scenario there. And again, just deeper levels and layers of the work so that you can begin to heal and, really look at, who it is that you've been up until this point. Do a deep dive and a self-reflection so you can create and have a fabulous 2026 and 2027. So I am going to buzz out of this. Hold on one second and back to the front. All right. So thank you guys so much for being with me, hanging out with me for this 2-hour session. I thought we'd have a little bit of time to just kind of have some dead time to go over the workbook, but we just kind of worked through it and boom, 2 hours have buzzed by super, super fast. So feel free to go back, work on the workbook, reach out to me if you have any questions about what we've gone over, some of the content, etc. But this is really a masterclass for you to, really get clear about who you've been, who you be, and then what it is that you want to create for yourself in your life in the future. So thank you guys so much for registering and checking it out. Even if you haven't registered, there's still time. Feel free to do that, and you'll get this fancy snazzy workbook and also a copy of this webinar as we kind of have gone through all the different aspects. And I'm sure there will be much more seminars on this very topic. The rest of this month, we have nutrition. We have a foundations of nutrition, so look out for that. It's one of our master foundation classes. It's a free class. And we have our new patient collective, which pretty much onboards new prospective patients or new holistic health coaches looking to work with new patients as well. It gives you that framework of how a consultation process looks like, sounds like, etc. If you have completed Intro to Holistic Medicine 1 and 2, you've completed all the required curriculum. I'm going through and I am doing some final touches on Intro to Holistic Medicine 2. Reaching out if you haven't done your final project, you can send that back. Because we'll be doing more launches. Also, too, we have our new calendar out for students. So if you haven't seen that, I'll link it below so you guys can take a look at that and see if there's any free classes or even some paid classes that you want to register for coming up. Again, we have some good class ideas. This is our January class. In February, we're going to get more into the nervous system and the emotional aspect. This is more about vision and thought process and affirmation and working through all that. So definitely spend the next 4 weeks buzzing through this. And then in February, we'll go into the emotional and the nervous system and, again, building capacity and all of that. So awesome. If you guys have any questions about this webinar, about how we created our vision and created our results, feel free to let me know. But for the sake of time, I'm going to sign off now. And so have a great and amazing rest of your Saturday. And hopefully you have gotten many somethings out of this seminar. Bye now.